So Sam, tell us about yourself, mate. I hint a strong, thick South African accent in there.
When I go back to South Africa,
I love it.
When I go back to South Africa, they actually say I sound Aussie.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So no, you don't have a home either, yeah. No one's saying
Maybe I go, mate. So immigrated from South Africa in 2008 and came over from Johannesburg and came over to Australia. Back in South Africa, that's where I grew up. Grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I had my first business at the age of 7, thanks to my parents. It wasn't much of a business, but it was basic principles. So at 7, I wanted a horse. And my parents were like, great, how are you going to afford to buy a horse? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then he said, well, why don't we get some chickens and we can sell chicken eggs? So that's what happened. So we bought some chickens, and then I used to get the eggs and I used to go and sell them to all the neighbours. And my eggs were way more expensive than the shops, way more. But they were fresh, they were free range, and they were home delivered. And I was 7 years old, so it was pretty hard for kids, for adults to say no. And so that's where I started learning about sales, and then cost, expenses, and then profit. And so that was my introduction into business, and then sort of grew from there. I went and studied a Bachelor of Commerce and majored in economics and industrial psychology. But by the time I finished my degree, I was already making more money than I could have in a job. So I've always been self-employed. The only time I had a job was when I first came to Australia. So at uni, we had a promotional clothing little business that was fun. We did a photography business that was good. We started a computer business called Geeks Computer Services, which is very early days when people were first networking computers together. I knew nothing about computers, but I knew lots about sales. And then sort of, what happened there? We did a couple of others. We had an under-18s nightclub. That was a disaster. Maybe because we tried to serve alcohol.
that makes sense.
So that got closed down pretty quickly. And then actually came over to Australia. We would have been, maybe I was 21, and saw how big backpacking was in Australia. So when we went back to South Africa, that's actually when we started up a business called Affordable Adventures. And it was basically backpacking was reasonably big, but it was easier to get to airline crew. So all the airlines, when they fly to South Africa, because it's a long-haul flight, the air hostesses and stewards stay in hotels for 3 nights or so. And we used to take them out on safari. So had that business, which then led to a couple of other businesses. So
it's literally in your blood.
Well, I think the thing is what we were saying earlier is people often have ideas, but then don't take action on those ideas. And for us, I always look and say, like, can you get clients or can you get the work? Then can you do it? And then can you keep the cash? And so sometimes it's just like, hey, let's just give it a go and see if that works. Hey, people pay for this. Okay, now I can commercialize it and go from there. And once you've got a little bit of momentum, it's easy. So people often sit and don't do anything because they're waiting for it to just be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. So take action.
It's really like the faster you can get to actually trying to sell that product or service. That's sort of what you're looking at.
Yeah. Oh, so if people come to you and they go, I've got a business idea, like sometimes you go, okay, great. They always go, people really, really need this product or service. And the question is, do they want it? And so sometimes you have an idea and see if you can sell that idea. So there's that saying, act as if. Okay, now don't act as if you're rich and buy shit you can't afford. That's not act as if. Act as if you've got this thing and go and sell it and see if people will actually buy it. Now if they say yes, then you can either go, hold that thought, I'll come back to you, or you can go, cool man, let's do it. So the first time we took people out on safari, my parents had a hot air ballooning business, so grew up around that. But I met some people and they're like, oh, is there anything else we can do around Johannesburg? And I was like, oh, there's this amazing game park, da-da-da-da-da. You've got giraffe, eland, kudu, zebra, impala, wildebeest and everything. For $100, I can pick you up from your hotel and take you there. They're like, cool.
Done.
I went $100 each. Yeah, no problem. Sweet. And then my wife now, but I think Lena, she was my girlfriend then. I'm like, holy shit, we've got people Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Like, so I hired a bus from my folks, but my dad still made me pay, which is fine. And then it's like, okay, I don't know that much about animals, so we better have a couple of books stashed on the side so we can tell them. Because we always ask funny questions, you know. So like, I had that, and went and picked them up. They paid. This is before Google reviews and all of that, but they're like, wow, that was amazing. I said, oh, cool. Can you tell your friends?
Yeah.
See if you've got any cards. I'm like, tell you what, give me your postal details, and I'll post some to you. And because they were airline crew, then when they went out, they said, oh, if you're going to Johannesburg, look up Sam and Lindy. They've got a business called Affordable Adventures. There's a story behind that name. Never call yourself affordable anything, because people always think you're going to be cheap. And so that's how it kicked off.
Yeah.
It was that, but we could have talked about it and gone, oh, maybe next time you come. It's like, let's do it. And I look back and go, how we got away with it. I mean, South Africa's a little bit looser than Australia. In terms of rules. There are rules, but not everybody follows them, which is maybe why I'm here. But I look back and go, there was a lot of risk, but at the end of the day, we gave it a go, it worked, and then built it up over time.
So. Do you think the barrier to entry of starting a business like that back then versus now is easier or harder? Or just maybe even a business in general?
I think with hindsight, when you look back, everything always looks easier when it was. Like if only I had, who said that 100 times, right? So right now it seems a little bit difficult, but it's, discomfort precedes victory. It's take it, give it a go. But also, and Richard Branson talks about this, about limiting the downside. Like, what's the downside? So I'll give you an example. I had a mate this is going back maybe 12 years ago, wanted to import some infrared saunas. Now, to import infrared saunas, he's got to bring over a whole shipping container of them, right? Which is a ton of money. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to invest all that money, bring them over. How do you know you can sell them? So bring over 4. And he goes, but I'm not going to make any money. I said, I know, but if those 4, if you can just break even on the 4, you test the market, then you'll know. If you bring over 40 and you can't sell them, like what you going to do? So he bought over 4, he sold them, broke even, and went, okay, that's a viable option. But also what happened, based on that, he actually changed the design. So imagine he only had to sell 4. If he had 40 of them to sell, it would have been a problem. So sometimes it's proving the demand. Is somebody willing to do it? And then worry about it.
That's also like creating that feedback loop for him to iterate faster.
Yes.
To get that feedback to know what the customer actually wants then as well.
Really important.
What is your transition to being a business coach and the Maximizer sort of program
so
look like?
When I came over to Australia, so how do we end up in Australia? South Africa was really good. We'd built up a number of different businesses. I was hot air ballooning for fun. My parents had a hot air ballooning business. We had a horse safari operation, which was fantastic. We had a quad motorcycle business.
Far out.
We had a touring business. We did a corporate training and team building. And then also we'd invested heavily in property. So we were basically set up. And my goal when I was a young parent was I want to be the parent that can be there when my kids go to school, and I can be at the school carnivals and all of that stuff. Because my parents provided really well for us, but they had to work exceptionally hard. So life was good. But we always knew we had to. I wasn't optimistic about the future of South Africa. There's still people there, but I just didn't believe I was optimistic about it. Which is actually how we ended up in Australia for we did a 3-month holiday here, but I was really having a look-see if Australia was a place. And we decided, no, we'd rather go back to South Africa and start up our first business. So life was good. We'd built up these businesses. We'd had kids. And as we were about to have kids, it's like, do we stay or do we go? Should I stay or should I go now? And it's like, no, we're going to stay. This is a great country. We've got a really good lifestyle. And I said, the next time we're going to make a decision is when the kids get ready to go to school. And the reason being is if you have indecision, if you're like, oh, I don't know if I should do this or shouldn't do it, you sit on the fence, you never commit to anything, which means you miss all the opportunities. So I'm like, no. We're going to commit. We're going to double down. That's what we're going to do. And we did it, and it was working really well. And then I'm the kind of guy that, like, if you've got a problem, call me, and I'll either be able to fix it, or I'll know somebody who'll be able to fix it, or I'll know somebody who'll know somebody. And so I got a phone call. This has been about must have been just after 5 o'clock. So I got up and I was on my way to gym when my phone rang. And it was my mate. And I'm like, why is he phoning me at 5 in the morning? Like, he knows I go to gym, but like, and I knew something was wrong. And they'd had a home invasion and they'd been attacked, but it wasn't him, it was his wife.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, Sam, we need some help. I said, sure, where are you? And she said, we were attacked last night. And I'm like, okay, like, what are we going to do? And she said, no, we're already at the hospital. So it's like, okay, fine, I'm on my way. So I ran back to the house, told my wife what had happened, and got there. And he'd been shot 7 times and survived. And survived. And that was like probably the final straw for us. And I just turned around and said, okay, that's it, we're done. You know, all the money, not that we had all the money in the world, but being well off, but, you know, if you're dead or damaged, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And we're young kids. So we decided to immigrate.
Yeah.
So I came over here and I actually got offered a job flying hot air balloons for a company called Hot Air. And they were opening up a branch in Bow Desert. And so we were originally going to end up in Bow Desert. I'm so happy.
Something just worked out for the best, eh?
Yeah, Cairns is a great place to raise a family. So, so I came over here thanks to a guy called Andrew Steele, who was fantastic, and he provided that opportunity, and I flew for Hot Air.
Yeah.
But I've always had my own businesses, and so I was looking, and then I actually joined a coaching franchise, and people are like, why did you do that? New country, and success leaves clues, and I'd rather pay money to save time, and so they had all the systems and processes in place, which enabled me to get traction very quickly. Unfortunately, that franchise was focused more on selling franchises, and so
Building the model and the business.
and so look, I did well there, and it was good. But then once I'd done my term, which was 5 years, I think 5 years, I then decided that I'd go out on my own.
Sure.
But I had a restraint of trade, so I had to see that through. Funny, because a number of other coaches left with no consequences. When I said I was leaving,
Oh, it was just you.
no, there was an exodus of coaches, but I'd done reasonably well. So when we went to
They were
training,
focusing on that clause.
I think when we went to training, so my goal was to be at that stage. I think there's 1,200 coaches around the world in this franchise, and I said, well, my goal is to be top 100 within a year. And the trainer's like, oh, that's a little bit arrogant. And I said, it might be, but I've always had coaches in all my sports I've done as well. I'm like, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a coach.
Yeah.
And so I said, who's the world's number one coach in terms of their ranking system? And it was a guy called Bruce. And I met Bruce and I didn't really connect with him. It's really important that you connect with your coach. And he was just didn't connect, didn't feel right. So I went, who coaches Bruce? And I said, this guy, Steve. And so this is when I was at a conference checking out whether I was going to join the franchise actually. And so even before I went to training, I'd already identified my coach. I walked up to this guy and I said, hey, Steve, my name's Sam. I'm joining. Once I join, will you be my coach? And he's like, sure. You're going to pay me? I'm like, yeah. And so people tease me because when I came back from training, like whatever Steve told me to do, I just did. Like I was like a little like mini me, like do this. And that's what I did. And then it's probably about 2 years later, I caught up with Bruce at another conference and then I connected. So also having different coaches at different stages. So that's what I did. So I went top 100 within 12 months. And then through the way that they used to rank us in terms of earnings, retention, and client results, I went top 10 in Australia, which is pretty cool. So that might have been part of the reason why
They're like, you
they
can't
did
be,
it.
yeah.
But like, I understand why they did it,
Yeah.
but I also understood it was time to exit. And then started my own. And then about 4 years ago, went rather niching down. So like there's a lot of generalist coaches, particularly if you go back like 10 years ago, anybody could coach everybody.
Yeah.
But by niching down, so I really specialize in service-based businesses, but more specifically tradies and builders. We're able to get results for our clients really, really quickly because we know exactly what works.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a cookie-cutter approach. It's more customized around the person and their business in terms of what activities or what strategies and tactics they need to do in what order. It works really, really well. So that's how it came about. So that was then Business Maximizer Coaching, which is just based really. Business is simple. It's you got to get the work, you got to do the work, and you got to keep the cash on the way through. And so that's how it all started. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Right.
Such a journey.
Yeah. What does it look like now for the number of clients that you're working with and some of the results you're achieving? I know that we talked before this and you sort of had one of your biggest years yet, you said.
Yeah, so this financial year that's just passed has been a record year for us on so many metrics. So best client results. So we're currently working with 40 different businesses at the moment.
Wow.
Our plan is to grow that up to about 60. Most of my clients work directly with me, so I'm either catching up with them quarterly, monthly, or twice a month. It's very organised. Like they get specific plans, they've got access to me, they've got access to our membership site. So best client results, we offer a guarantee that we'll offer 200% return on your investment, or I will coach you for free until I do, which works quite well. So we guarantee that. But best client results, so on average, across all our clients, they saw their net profit go up by $171,000. So some people did way more than that. Some people did less than that, but on average. So that I love that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's that. Then for us, it was best sales, best profit, and most time off. So at the moment, the way we've structured it is I work really hard. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and then generally Fridays. I have it as a buffer, but I've started playing golf. I'm terrible at golf, so I need to play a lot more. Weekends is for family and friends, and then Monday's more a thinking strategy day.
Yeah,
and then we get into it again.
Wow, that's such a contrast to where you said you're at with the 5 different businesses you run, like in South Africa.
Oh man,
and like working every single hour.
Literally, inside that, like when I first started that business, like I had all those businesses running and I built this little mini empire up, so to speak, but I was the center of it all. I was on call 24/7, 365. Like you could, if you phoned me at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was like, Affordable Adventures, Sam speaking.
Yeah.
So again, funny, last night, so went golfing with my mates, and then we sat down and we had a couple of drinks, and we were talking about motivation, which might be relevant to you guys, in the sense that what motivates you changes over time. And so motivation, like when you're young and like you want to, like I want to grow a business, I want to grow sales, I want to do these things. That's what drives you to specific outcomes. I feel that as you get older, as you have a family, so your motivation is like, sure, I want to be able to provide for my family, but I also want to be available for my family. And then as you get older, like our kids are not leaving home, holy smokes. It's like, okay, now I want more time to do other stuff. So your motivation changes, and so your business evolves as well. Like essentially, a business is a vehicle to help you achieve your personal goals. It's not the goal. And sometimes, like when I was younger, man, when I started Affordable Adventures, like I sat there the one day in a hotel waiting to pick some people up, and I'm like, I'd love to do $1 million in a year. I'm like, $1 million in a year. For no other reason than I just wanted to do $1 million in a year.
Yeah. But
then, like taking that as a goal. And you could argue that wasn't a very powerful why, but it was. It's like I have $1 million a year business. So, but then what does that look like? So to do $1 million in a year, like how many tours do I need to run? How many people on those tours, and all of that. And once you work that out, that's now an achievable goal. So often we have goals that are up here, then you've got to bring it all the way down to what does it mean I need to do? What do I need to achieve this quarter, this month, this week? What do I need to do every single freaking day to drive it? And so we did $1 million in a year, and that was like, yay. And it's like, okay, $1 million in a quarter. And that was a push. And by that time, we'd actually changed the business. We were doing more team building and training because companies pay a lot more money for that stuff. And my background with industrial psychology, I could put programs together that were far more profitable. So we did $1 million in a quarter. And I looked at my business partner. I've had a couple of business partnerships as well, and a guy called Ian, a bit older than me, really smart. So there were 4 partners. There was Ian. He was must be about 10 years older. Had really good values. He came from a big corporate, provided structure. Then his brother, Andrew was operations. Like if Andrew ran an event for you, or if Andrew took you on safari, you would have the best safari or tour, whatever the case is. Like he was amazing with people, and he just loved it. And then my wife then, she was involved in the finance. So she was very, very organised. Like you can just give her a whole lot of paper and shit, and she'll organise it and file it and sort it out. And then my nickname was Captain, and I'd say Captain Marvellous, and they'd all go Captain Chaos, because I'm the one that was out there selling. I was out there getting the work. Ian and Andrew, the guys doing the work, and Lindy was around keeping the cash. Now, I didn't have that model at that stage, but that's the model that we developed. Where did I go with that? Oh, so then I turned to Ian, get to the end of the quarter, and like the staff are burnt out, and like we celebrated, and I go, Ian's like, fuck off. $1 million in a month. And he went, that's just stupid, Sam. He said, like, what kind of events would we need to run to do $1 million in a month? I went, oh, that's a great question. I said, well, we need to do more inflatable sports and events. We have this giant inflatable obstacle course. We need to do more movie making because it's not very staff intensive. We need to do more survivor team challenges. He goes, okay, that's great. He goes, but what company? And I said, they've got to be events with at least 100, between 100 and 300 people, because then you're getting big chunks of cash in, right? And he goes, yeah, but who does that? Like which company? I said, oh, that's a great question. Yeah. He's like, oh my. So
your brain's just ticking away in overdrive.
And I went back and had a look at all the events, and I said, oh, what's really interesting is like we've done a lot of work with 3 of the big banks. Why don't we find up the others? And we've done lots of work with accounting firms, big accounting firms. Yeah. These are guys we haven't. So I'd pick up the phone. Let's just pick up the phone and phone the guys. Well, I'd phone them and I'd go, hey, it's Sam here from Affordable Adventures. And I'd find out who the training person was. And I'd go, look, currently we do a lot of work with competitor A, competitor B, competitor C. I'd love to come down and sit down and have a chat with you to see how we can help with your team building and training needs. What do you think they said?
Yes.
Of course, come in. They want to know what we're freaking doing for them. No, we wouldn't talk about that. No, but now I've got the meeting,
Gets
right?
your foot in the door.
And so literally, I think it took us about, it was 2 months or 3 months later, we did $1 million. And we pushed it, man. It was freaking crazy, right? Like to the point that it's coming down to the wire. I remember, I think it was Kelly was finding somebody going, please just book this event because we need to hit our target. I'm like, Kelly, nobody cares about our target because I do. So then we did that, and then I turn around to Ian, and he's just like, and Andrew and Lindy, they're like, no, Sam. I'm like, if we did $1 million in a month, we can do 12 million in a year. And they're like, but you can't really, or we couldn't have then because we'd burnt out the team literally.
Sure, yeah.
But that year we did 7.5. And then the following year I emigrated to Australia, and then a year later or 2 years later I actually sold my shares in that business.
Wow.
But only once we were in Australia. Again, that was interesting because I tried to sell my shares before I left, but nobody wanted to buy them because they thought I was the business, because I was the front of the business.
Yeah.
But we had built a really strong back end. So when I left and stopped changing things, the business actually ran smoother for a while.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But then it stagnated and then slowly atrophied, like slowly went away. But it was a good business. It was fun.
That's incredible. Amazing. How do you balance that though? Because you just said that you're sort of burning your team out as well on that side, but you also had the big lofty goals of going after $1 million every single month for that year. So,
look, so then I was most probably early 30s, right? So I think maybe our kids were quite young then, so it didn't matter. I just loved it and was driving. Like, whereas now I would not work. I don't want to work.
Yeah, your values have sort of changed.
Yeah, my values have changed and my priorities have changed. But sometimes just having that is a big enough reason to go for it, right? Yeah. So, But like now when we sit down with clients, like I do a lot of work with traders, and one of the first things I do is when I bring on a new client, it's like, what are your 3 to 5 year vision? Where do you want to be there? Like, and when we talk about that, it's like, how do you want to be spending your time? How do you want to feel? It's a little bit vague. And then we go, okay, what are your 12-month goals? And like then you can get really specific. Like what revenue do you want to do? What profit do you want to do? How many staff do you want to have? How many holidays do you want to have? Where do you want to go? Like really, really specific. And then we break those down into, okay, what do you need to do this quarter over the next 90 days? And then we break it down to, okay, what do we need to do every week? So it's taking something that's way up here and bringing it right down to here. So even my days now, I score myself every single day. I've got 10. I've just added an 11th thing, but it's like a lead domino. So my first one is I wake up at the same time every day. And I think that was saying from it was either Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan that was talking about it. I'm like, okay, I'm in for that, right?
Yeah.
So you go to bed at the same time most nights and you get up at the same time most days. So it's like 5 o'clock. If I get up out of bed at 5, tick.
Yep.
Have you guys listened to Darren Daly, Darren Hardy? Have you followed him?
No.
I haven't heard of him.
Man, really good. So he wrote a book called The Compound Effect.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing new in this book. Nothing new.
To say a book Brody
Yeah.
hasn't read, that doesn't sound right.
Nothing new in this book, but just the way he articulates it
Yeah.
is so good. No, he's got a thing called Darren Daily. So every day, every working day, there's a short video of Darren talking about something. So get up at 5. I do 15 minutes, quickly review my goals and what I'm focusing on.
Yeah. For the day? Or?
So I'll have a look and go, no, this is what I want to achieve this year.
Yeah.
Oh, so
This
good.
quarter.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah, it's
really
just
well,
it's a one pager.
Yeah.
So it's just quickly cast my over. It keeps me focused because otherwise it's easy to get distracted, right? Then I get in the car, open up my phone, open up my email, click on Darren Hardy, the Darren Daily, and then I listen to that while I drive to gym, which is only 5 minutes. So got up at 5, reviewed my goals, listened to Darren Daily, gone to gym. I've already ticked 4.
4 things off.
Right. Come back from gym, quickly walk the dogs. That's not a tick because the dogs won't let me not walk them. So I don't need to measure that one. It's done. But then work for an hour on my business. So quite an interesting this one as well. Is think about this actually for you guys, right? Let's go your podcast, for example, or a business idea. If you had a month of Sundays, so in other words, 30 days where you had 8 hours, so 30 times 8, what's our financial plan here? What's that?
240.
Oh, damn.
He's on fire. Right, so 240 hours to work on your business. What would be some of the things you'd do? Like if you had that time, what would you do?
Content
Correct
planning.
content.
Yeah.
Okay.
Editing, topic
Systems.
ideas, booking guests, cold calls, cold emails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you start working that out, but also think about this work of in your business, and I know everybody overuses this, in your business and on your business.
Yeah.
So in your business, that work happens automatically. The phone's going to ring, somebody's going to need to answer the phone, you're going to send an email. That's in your business. But like, what could you work on your business? So a marketing strategy, a content strategy, all of those things. If you set aside an hour a day, okay, that's an hour a day, there's 220 working days in a year, or you could, if you just took out weekends, 220 working days in a year.
Yeah.
Well, a month of Sundays is 240 hours. So an hour a day is how you move your business forward. You just need to set aside 1 hour every single day.
Yeah.
I say to my clients, if you ever get an email from me before 7 in the morning, you know you got my hour, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm a morning person. At 8 o'clock at night, I don't even know my name, man. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm cooked. Okay. So setting aside time and having structured time to work on your business, then the rest of the day you can work in your business.
Yeah.
And so setting aside every 90 days, setting aside a couple of hours to actually plan what you're going to do for your next quarter and review your 5-year, 1 year, 90-day goals, you're on track. It's
How
easy.
consistent have you found yourself being with that 1 hour every single day? Like, do you find yourself like some days?
Can we turn off the camera?
Yeah.
I know, since I started keeping score of my days,
That's what's helped.
that helps. But also, like by 8 o'clock, I've already ticked off 5 of my.
You've created momentum.
Yeah, I've done it, right?
Yeah.
So the other 5 is I've always wanted to learn to play the guitar.
Yeah.
Not very good at it, right? So it's like what I've done is I've number 6 is always a bit of a whist. It's either play the guitar for 5 minutes. We were meant to learn to dance, my wife and I, or I've got to cook dinner. So
One of those 3.
you're one of those 3. I get a point, right? Then there's content. So setting aside an hour for content, 15 minutes of reading. I've left something out. I've got out of water.
Do you drink water targets?
Oh, actually, yeah, there we go. No sugar.
Yeah.
That's hard, man.
You're just in a constant state of 75 hard.
Yeah.
365 hard.
But yeah, that's. I mean, that's. Have you done that? I haven't done it.
We've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It was intense.
Yeah.
With the, obviously, like you spoke about how, gym, fitness, all of that's always been like a kind of part of your journey throughout. Where do you find the balance between the self-improvement, so the learning, the reading, the development, versus when you were saying in your 20s where it was just every hour was spent on the business? Do you feel that takes away from your productivity or it adds to it?
Whenever I exercise more, I make more money.
Oh, wow.
So probably about 10 years ago, I did a full Ironman.
Yeah.
And that year when I did that, so that year I wrote my first book. I did a full Ironman. I think I grew my coaching practice by like 30% or something.
Yeah.
But what happened is it was crazy. And you can go back and actually find what I call a default diary, the way I structured my day.
Yeah.
And people will laugh at me. It's like, okay, so I'll meet you at 8:45. And people say, everybody's always like 8:30 or 9. Like, no, 8:45. Like I'd plan my days within 15-minute increments.
Yeah.
I thought I'd done well on that. But then not the following year, the year after, at dinner, I said to the kids, I said, Dad's thinking of doing another Ironman. Yeah. And my son and my daughter went, oh, no. I'm like, ooh, maybe I missed the mark. And I said, oh, why'd you say that? And my daughter goes, Dad, you are always tired and sore. And I'm like, okay. So, like, there is a balancing act. But again, my realization is without your health, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So actually setting aside time, and it doesn't always have to be hard. Like even, walking the dogs for 15, 20 minutes a day. It's more about watching what you eat as well, right? Like if you're working hard, then you start eating crap, and then you start putting on weight, and then you don't feel good, and then you don't have energy, and it's just that cycle.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be obsessed about it. I've got an addictive personality.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
So, like, if there's a bar of chocolate at home, like, don't bring the bar of chocolate home.
Yeah.
It's going to get destroyed, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's like having a routine. You don't have to go to gym for 2 hours.
No.
You can go in and out of the gym. You
Half
can be
an
in and
hour,
out
45
half an hour. You know.
Yeah.
Actually, there was Tim Ferriss interviewed Hugh Jackman. I think it was episode 444 of the Tim Ferriss show, and Hugh Jackman talks about how he bulked up for a movie role.
Yeah.
And then they realized, no, you had to be like lean and fit. And so he got on the rower, and he said 2,000 meters in 7 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
Okay.
Decent.
I thought, how hard can that be?
Yeah.
I haven't achieved it yet. Last week I was feeling good, and I gave it horns. I gave it everything I could, and I missed it by 9 meters.
No way.
Yeah. I haven't done it yet, right? So I was like, 1,991 meters, and I was like, like I could have pulled just that bit harder.
Yeah.
But that was 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I was done.
Yeah.
So not having time, that's an excuse.
Yeah.
And if you start believing your own excuses, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just going back, just finishing off this one. So 5 a.m. wake up. You've got obviously that morning routine, and we go through like how important habits and routines and everything that follows. So like you have 3 different pathways. You can either have like an extra 2 hours of sleep, and then you've got, an extra 2 hours of energy for the day to be productive, or you've got you could go to work 2 hours earlier, and then you've got an extra 2 hours of productivity throughout your day, or you do your morning routine. Out of those 3, do you still feel like what you've got is like the most optimized?
For me,
Yeah.
right? And so like you get morning people, and you get like evening
Night
people.
owls,
I always call it like you're either a cup of coffee kind of person or a beer and a glass of wine kind of person. And even sometimes when you're thinking, like, when do you do your best thinking? Mine's in the morning.
Yeah.
Other people, it's in the evening. Now, occasionally, inspiration may hit me in the evening, around a fire, or But it's like, when are you at your best? That's when you want to plan it.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing that I learned is it's really hard to work on your business during normal hours, because that's when the phone's ringing, that's when stuff's happening. That's what I call money time. That's where you're doing the work of the business. Yeah. It takes an extra bit of discipline and to do that during that time, to block off that time. It can be done, right? Whereas early in the morning, if you get into the office at 7 and everybody else gets into the office at 9, like this is even if you're working for somebody, your own business, right? those 2 hours, you can achieve more in those 2 hours
than the
than you
whole day.
can the rest of the day. Because the phone's not ringing, nobody's asking you questions. I talk about my old business partner, Ian. When we built a new office, I always go into the office early, and I get in the office early, and then Ian would be there. And I'm like, he's like,
This is my thing. I come early. Yeah.
He's like, I also do early, and we don't need to talk to each other. I'm like, perfect. And so Ian would be working out what the staff are going to do and everything. I'd be in doing my stuff. And every now and again, we might say one or two words to each other, but it was just, boom, us.
Yeah.
And, the girls would come to the office later and go, like, what do you guys talk about? Like, we don't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're there to get shit done,
Yeah.
get everything sorted for the day so it runs smoothly. And that's how you get ahead. Now, later on, like, I've got friends that are extremely wealthy that will tell you they don't set alarm clocks, they do whatever they want to do, but they've got to that next level.
Yeah.
For me, even if I don't set my alarm clock,
I'll be up
I'm
at
awake.
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's go time. But it's good time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So does that answer the question?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just think, like you said, different structures for different people. I just find it so interesting, that concept of like the extra things that you're building into your routine. Are they adding to your success and your productivity, or are they taking away? And it's going to be different for each person. It also depends on what you're adding in as well too.
I think what's an important differentiator there as well is like success. Success means different things to
For so many
different people
different
people. Yeah.
at different times.
Yeah.
Right? Productivity can be measured. Like, how much shit did you get done?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in, like, email. Let's talk about email, right? How many times have you read an email and gone, oh, I'll get to that later?
Yeah.
And you read it again, oh, I'll get to that later. And you read the same freaking email like 5 times, right?
Yeah.
What happens if you just block off an hour or 2 hours a day? 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour late afternoon. And all you do is you just do the 5 Ds. You delete it, so you read it, delete, okay? Or you delete it, delegate it. So like, hey, Brody, can you handle this?
Yeah.
Thanks, Cameron. Let me know once it's done. Okay, so delete it, delegate it, defer it. So in other words, you actually put it and you go, that task is going to take me an hour to do it. Let me open up my diary and let me put that email in there. You create an appointment for that email, okay? Or it's the 4 Ds, or do it. And for me, it's like, can I do that in less than 3 minutes?
Yeah.
You go, 3 minutes? Well, in the time that I've explained this concept to you, it's only been a minute. Right? You cannot believe what you can do. So like, it's a short email. You can just go boom, boom, boom. Good old ChatGPT these days as well. Like, you can quickly put out a rough idea rather than refining it, put it into ChatGPT, get a better response, send it back, done. Okay, but otherwise that frickin' email sits there. You read it 10 times before you even deal with it, and you go overwhelmed. But setting time aside, blocking off, people go, I don't need to do 2 hours a day. I go, cool, man. If you've gone through all your emails and everything's cleared within it, you can move on to something else.
Yeah,
Actually, having that is a super good productivity.
Yeah. I love that. Who's someone that you sort of look up to these days, now that you're at this stage of your life? Or
Oh, lots.
Yeah.
Like again, I read a lot.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. So that I've still got my own coach as well, that holds me to account. I don't believe, there's that saying, never trust a skinny chef.
Yeah.
So there's all the skinny chefs out there. Are you eating your own cooking is another way of putting it. So like, there's a number of people that you do that I look up to. And again, it goes back to that point, is like, what is success?
Yeah.
As a financial planner, I'm sure you see people talking about, well, success is when I've got this amount of money and whatever the case is, but that's not necessarily.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's right. It's time a lot of the time, and how are you building in time for their life? Because that's the most valuable thing when you've got all the toys and the money, you just can't buy more time. But if you can provide someone more time, that's the most valuable thing too, and that's success.
Yeah, for some people.
For some people,
yeah. Because other people are looking and go, they just want a scorecard.
Yeah.
So it does depend on that.
Yeah.
That's
So-
so.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So,
sorry,
no, go ahead,
No, you
man.
go.
What is so we've touched on like daily protocols and everything like that, and productivity hacks. What does coaching actually look like for someone to come on board with you? Because I can assume that a lot of business owners that you might have, you might have had some older business owners that might go, well, I don't need a coach. I've been a founder-led thing and I've done everything my way. and now they're getting somebody else in to say, hey, here's an objective look at what you're doing. I think we can make improvements here. What does that look like to them?
I get a lot of people that phone me up and go, these guys need your help. And I go, they may need my help, but do they want it?
Yeah.
And so coaching comes, you can only coach people when there's awareness. So all change starts with a level of awareness. Often what happens is a sign is like, I'm working hard, but I'm just not making the progress. Something's missing. And sometimes somebody coming from the outside looking in gives you a different perspective. And also sometimes people feel in business like my challenges are unique to me. But when they go, hey, this is a common challenge and this can be solved, then people are open to it. So for me, working with clients, it's like we've got to be a good fit. So always the conversation was, let's have a quick chat to see if I can or can't help you.
Yeah.
If I can't help you, I'll let you know. Now, can't help you might mean you've got a problem that I don't know how to solve, okay? Or we're not a good fit.
No.
Yeah.
Let's not even start that conversation, right?
Yeah.
But if I can help you, I'll let you know. And if they feel the same way. So you've got to have that element of it. So if somebody comes and says, I know everything, and what do you know? Hey, we're not a good fit. And that's okay, buddy. Like, keep on doing what you're doing. Good luck. But often what I find, the guys I work with, all my clients, if working harder would solve their problem, they would have solved it already.
Yeah.
One. Sometimes it's not big changes, it's small changes, but it's the finer details that make the big difference. So that's the other one. There's that element of it, right? So guys are open to those ideas and willing to try new things. Then what happens is it's around giving people some clarity. So like, where do you want to get to? Where are you now? And what's getting in the way?
Yeah.
It's a nice, simple conversation. If we can identify what's getting in the way, then we can work out what strategies and tactics we can do to get you through that. All right. And again, I look at with our coaching clients, I believe all of our coaching clients will achieve a level of success with or without me. I'll just speed it up because I've been there. We've got the tools, we've got the resources. So also what we've built is, so we give people clarity, but we've also built this community. Sometimes people go, oh, no, that'll never work in my business. And that's okay. But I go, okay, that's interesting because Bob over here said the same thing. Do you want to have a chat to Bob? And Bob go, I thought the exact same thing. Yeah. And then I tried it and it works. He's like, no ways. So it speeds things up, right? So it always starts on, where do you want to get to? Where are you now? What's getting in the way? Let's work on those things. So it's always a customized plan specific to them and their business. Okay. And quite often what happens as well is a sequencing. So if you could do the right thing at the wrong time and still not get the right result. Right? It's around what do we need to do in what order. Often people are concerned, it's like, I don't have time. And we spoke about time where you can structure your time, but sometimes they're working on the wrong things at the wrong time. So we give guys clarity, then we give them confidence as well. So you've got this community that you can talk to. Other people have done it. We've got the tools and resources. So it just speeds up everything. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
That's really interesting as well. Like, is there some sort of sequence or framework that you'd take people through?
So our model, getting the work, doing the work, keeping the cash, if you think about those three circles that are all interlinked, is there's always one circle that's bigger than the others, and there's always one circle that's smaller. So if somebody's going, I'm not running at capacity. Okay, so it sounds like doing the work, your team and systems is fine, but you're not getting enough work. So under getting enough work, there's three things. Attract, which is marketing. So is it a marketing problem? Convert, is it a sales problem? Or is it a retention, customer service problem? Which one of those? And I love playing poker. I'm not very good at it, but I love it, right? And so what we've created is almost like a suit of cards where it's like, what's the royal flush for attract, for marketing? What's the royal flush for that? And the royal flush for that is right work for the right clients at the right price. That's the first thing we will sit down with somebody. So the story I said earlier about how did we do 1 million in a month was going, what work do we need to be doing? What events do we need to be running? For what people? As soon as we identified that, we could go and market to that. And then it's like, who's our market? What's our message? What's our medium? How are we going to get to them?
Yeah.
And so it builds from there. Yeah. So it's structured, but it's customized.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing as well is what we've identified is and we're doing a lot of work on this at the moment, is sometimes people are at different stages in their business, but they don't know what stage they're at. And depending on the stage you're at will depend on what you do. So we call it a level 1 business. And you guys mentioned this earlier. A level 1 business is a seed business. So somebody's got this idea. They think they're going to be able to do it. And they think they're going to be the next billionaire. Like this is a billion. And there are hundreds and thousands, if not millions of people with seed business ideas, right? The next one is a startup. Somebody's actually got the balls and the guts to go, actually, I'm going to give this a shot. So the startup business, it's not really a business. You're more like a volunteer. You got some work, you got some money coming in and out, and you're not too sure where you are, right? Next level up, which is where I reckon 80% of businesses get stuck, is called a survival business, level 3. Money's coming in, money's going out. You're working overtime. You've got maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 staff. You're paying yourself an employee wage, if that. And it's like, man, the mistake people make at a level 3 is they go, I've just got to make my business bigger. I've got to scale it. You cannot scale lack of profits, and you cannot scale chaos. Okay? You're just going to be in a world of pain. I know this from experience. Okay, I had to downsize one of my businesses because I grew it too quickly without the structure. So from survival, step 4 is stable. It's a stable business. So you've got right work from the right people. You've got money coming in. You're paying yourself a manager's wage now. You've built up a bit of a team. They're starting to do the work, and you're starting to manage. Then level 5 is a cool business. We call it a successful business. It's a successful lifestyle business. And we talk about the 5 2s. I think you guys will like this. 200,000 profit, 200,000 salary, 200 series Land Cruiser. You know, it's like the limousine of Far North Queensland, right? They brought out the 300, so we're going to have to change it to the 5 3s soon. 2 international holidays a year. And when you go overseas, you always go overseas for at least 2 weeks, right? So it's 4 weeks off. And then working 2 days a week. If you got that, that's a cool lifestyle business. Enables you to do all the things you want to. And our program, the Trade Transformation Program, takes guys from survival to successful, and it can be done in as short as 18 months. Some guys take longer, each to their own. Then we've got a different program, which is called Scale Up, because once you've got a successful business, you actually go, it almost feels like you go backwards as you scale, because you have to reinvest your money into systems and processes. You go back to working overtime, you're building your team, and you're starting to get your skills around leadership better. But what's the payoff? You end up at the level 7 business. It's a significant business. That's where you have more than enough money. You have more than enough time. It's your time. That's where you potentially sell your business and then retire, whatever retirement looks like for you. So the second book I wrote, which is Small Business, Big Exit, is about how to make more money selling your business than running it. And that's often the case around significant. So we've created a short survey that you can do online, 7 levels of business. You answer a couple of questions. It says, okay, you are at survival. Based on your score, the next thing you need to do is this.
That's
now,
perfect.
if you want help with that, happy to help you if we're a good fit and you don't know everything. So that's the way it works. And then people can find out where they are. But the biggest mistake I see is either people not starting. So like one day. Well, one day never comes. And they've always got excuses. Or the other one is, I've got a survival business. I want to try and scale it. I'm going to open up a second branch. Why? You're not making any money on your first branch. Oh, Sam, but economies of scale. Well, economies of scale suck balls if you're not making money.
Crash it,
It's just you've got to prove it. And that's actually another mistake that I find guys in business, if I could give advice to somebody that's starting a business, people often go, oh, what do you do? And they go, oh, there are these guys and they've got all this market share and we can do it better than them for half the price. So we're going to charge half the price. We're going to do, that's their strategy, go in cheap. The problem is you can never then grow your business. You can't ever afford to employ somebody else. You can't ever afford to invest in the systems. So like if you've got somebody out there that's, let's just make up numbers, they're selling this product for $100 and you can supply the product for 50, you're either going to supply it at 110, and you go, why? Well, they've got employees and people that don't give a shit employing it. I'm going to take it, are really good at what you're doing, so they're getting the best of the best. So that becomes your value proposition. Or if you really have to compete on price and get a little bit of market share and tell yourself a story, go for it. But do it for $90. Don't do it for $50. And then once you've got the confidence and you've proven the demand that you can get it, the work, you can do the work, and you're going to keep some of the cash on the way through, now you've got the opportunity to employ people.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer, like you can have lifestyle businesses where, there's a big push on online stores and one-man businesses, lifestyle businesses. I believe if you're going to start a business, you're almost better off having a job, or if you can find those exceptional businesses, and they are out there. But if you don't have any intention of, I keep on hitting the mic, if you don't have any intentions of employing staff, sometimes you're actually almost better off working for somebody else as a specialist. If you can get, we grow businesses in 4s, 8s, and 12s. So 4 staff, nice little profitable business. All the economies sort of work well. Next one up is 8, where you really start to make money. Next one up is 12. Once you hire your 13th staff member, the rules change a little bit from HR and all of those things. And then that's where you start scaling a business. But I've got a good mate that I go to gym with, and he had no intention of hiring staff. He came up with all the excuses why he couldn't find staff. And I just said to him, just go get a job, man. You'll make more money. You'll be happier. And he's like, no, I'm a business owner. I'm like, okay, business owner, and you're miserable. But then he turned around and just cracked the shits and went, that's it. And he's gone and got a job. Okay? He's happy as Larry, man. He's making 2 or 3 times the amount of money he was making when he was running his business. He's got time now to spend with his kids. He's really, life is good for him. So, but my advice to him was, if you're not going to employ staff, you've got this amazing skill set. Go and market and sell yourself to a company. They'll be so happy to have you. Somebody that shows up and wants to work and does their work passionately and does it well and does it with a business owner mindset. Don't pull in sickies. Don't check how many sickies days we've got and what we're entitled to. Just go in there and act as if you're a business owner, but work bloody hard. He's making really good money, but he doesn't have the stress of running a business.
Yeah.
But if you go through that and you hire a couple of staff, and look, you're going to have to kiss a couple of frogs before you find your prince or princess, whatever the case is, right? I tried to hire somebody once and they were a dog, and so you gave up. Like, come on. Yeah. But get a couple of good staff, then you're humming. So there are ways to go through it.
That's really cool.
Fantastic.
It's almost like you don't hear that enough, because that's a complete ego hit. It's to someone that thinks they're a small business owner, but realistically, they're more suited to just being an employee, and they'll have a great employee, and they'll have a better life than when they were trying to pursue it. But there's not enough literature and content out there that actually says, "Hey, it's better to go backwards," because everything online that I'm seeing, maybe it's because of the algorithm with your Daniel Priestley's and your Dan Sullivan's, it's all about scaling up to be a small business owner and getting out of the grind of the 9 to 5, whereas sometimes you need the ego hit to be like, you'd actually be happier on the grind.
Yeah. But I also think too, it's cycles. Like, obviously, there's that generation where it's like, go to university, go get your corporate job and climb the corporate ladder as much as you can. And it goes in cycles. And then we're clearly in this cycle at the moment where it's like the emphasis on, small business owners, because we see on social media, the flexibility they have, the location freedom, time freedom, financial freedom.
Lifestyle businesses.
And lifestyle business. And we see what they're doing, but no one is out there, trumpeting the corporate life and the benefits that come with that as well too.
But also they talk about it, right? They sell that, right? They sell this, the freedom and everything.
Yeah.
But I see lots of business owners that have no freaking freedom. They can't go on holiday.
Yeah.
They're working after hours to try and do the invoicing, trying to get paid, all of these things. Like that's the dream.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that just earlier, around like there's a success bias. Okay, so think about this for a second, right? Imagine you walk into a bookstore and there's a book on the counter that says, I tried to start a business once and I failed miserably. Would you buy it? No, right? But there's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of books that could have been written like that.
Yeah.
But then we find a book about somebody that cracked the code and, like somebody famous. Let's go Mark Zuckerberg. Like, yeah, but look at Mark Zuckerberg. He did all of this and now he's a billionaire. And I go, yeah, but he's like 1 in a billion.
Yeah.
All right? There are always these exceptions. Yeah. And so another filter I like to use, actually you'll like this from a financial planning point of view, right, is if you're going to get advice from somebody, you need to understand how they benefit from the advice they give you and then apply it as a filter. So if I'm selling courses on how to leave the the grind and have this lifestyle business and jet around the world on jets and shit, right? I'm gonna say that it's easy. You just follow these steps and look at all these success stories.
Yeah.
But I don't tell you about all the people that didn't do it.
Yeah.
But how do they make their money? Selling those courses, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so like when you're working with a financial planner, like I want to understand, okay, cool, man. How do you make your money? Because if I understand how you make your money, then I understand how you're giving me the advice. Now, here in Australia, like financial planning is really, really heavily regulated and controlled. And again, the problem with that is the good guys are always going to be the good guys, right? The guys that are going to break the rules and bend the rules, even when there are lots of rules, they're still going to do it. I mean, there's examples of what's happened here in Canada. I mean, the guys that you work with, like where you work, I know those guys. Like they're good guys. They've been around for a long time. They do the right thing, right? But then there are other guys that come in that don't do the right thing. And then tarnish the industry. The good guys get ladled with all these rules and regulations that actually slow things down, but they're slowing down the wrong guys. The guys that don't give a shit.
They don't find a way out anyway.
So I mean, like they've got a reputation. Like they do the right thing. They've been around for a long time. They're very involved in the community. They're good people, right? Yeah. But there are other people out there that see it for easy coin and do the wrong thing. So, but even like me as a coach, like that's why I turn around and say, let's have a chat to see if I can or can't help you. Yeah. And there are plenty of times where I'll sit down and meet with somebody and go, you actually don't need me as a coach right now. You must probably need a really good bookkeeper. Let me put you in touch with a good bookkeeper. Or interesting that you're like, I'm not an accountant, but maybe you just need to go and have a chat to let me give you a number of one or two other accountants who I think would be a good fit for you.
It's like genuinely trying to help them.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
But it also makes your life easier too. Like you end up banging your head against the wall when you've got the wrong person for you because you're giving them the advice and the structure and all things going well. They should be succeeding. Like same thing with personal training. Like you can tell everyone this is how you eat, this is what you need to train, do this, that, but if they don't want to do it, you're not the right fit.
But I've seen that so many times with other business coaches as well, because I work with obviously a lot of different businesses who have business coaches, and sometimes that business coach doesn't really think about what the business owner wants. They're just coming in and they're like, we're going to get you to $500,000 and we're just going to do it as fast as possible. It doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter if you want like the lifestyle or balance or to see your kids more. We're just going to get you to that like target rather than, like you said, figuring out what that person wants first.
Yeah. And again, like, you know, you can't have everything, right? So sometimes you've got to sacrifice on some things. Like, okay, you want to get to that. How quickly do you want to get to that level? Okay, what are you prepared to do to get to that level?
Yeah.
One of my coaches, when our kids are young and I was working hard, man. I was like freaking grinding. And I said, actually it was Steve was still my coach then. I said, I'm doing it for my family. He says, but maybe they just want time with you instead. Yeah. I'm like,
Don't say that. Don't say that.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember coming home the one day, and I came home early, and we had some acreage up at Clifton Beach, and it was a battle axe block, so it got this long driveway, and I'm like getting home, and I can see my son on his bicycle riding up the driveway, and I'm like, hey, James, Dad's home. How you doing? He goes, yeah, cool. I'm going to go see my friend. I'm like,
Back to work I go.
But it's just like realizing that as your kids get older, you want to spend more time with them, or but each to their own.
Yeah.
So
that's the interesting part as well. Is like you said, the sacrifices that you're trying to look for in that part of your life. Then, because you really do have to give up different parts of what you're going after.
Yeah, at different stages for sure. Like there's times to push and there's times not to push. Like, when you're younger and like maybe you're not married or you don't have kids yet, like you can grind, man. You can like put in the hard yards and get to where you want to get to quickly. There's a second time to push, which is actually, I've had this conversation with my wife, is like our kids, my son left the home last year. He's in ADFA studying down in Canberra. Our daughter joins the Air Force next year. And so now we're empty nesters. I'm 50 as I sit here talking to you guys today. But like if I wanted to give it a red hot second hard push, like this would be the time because then it's, but right now I'm trying some other things, golf and sailing and cycling. And
working hard, playing hard.
Yeah, work hard, play hard, man. Like that's the way.
Yeah. What does the future look like for you then? Do you sort of have a next sort of goal? Like that you're going after? Since you said this could be your next push.
Yeah, it's something that's we're busy
Planning.
Yeah.
It's in the works.
Yeah, it was in the works. I mean, even had some deep and meaningful conversations yesterday.
Yeah.
So like I am at a point like where I'm looking at it. Our intention is to grow our business by another 50%. This in the next 12 months. So there's a plan around that. But then where to from there, we'll see. Earlier this year, actually last year, somebody that we know really well passed away quite suddenly. And I said to my wife, okay, who are all the people we want to go and see before anybody else dies? I know it's a bit of a morbid subject, but it was a way of framing things. And so we made a list of all our friends from South Africa who've not moved all around the world. They're still friends in South Africa, whatever the case is. And I said, cool. Let's do, next year when the kids leave home, let's do a round the world trip. And we're going to go and spend a couple of days with everybody all around. So we planned this trip. But then it was too hard, because I see my clients quite regularly. So what we decided to do is we're going to do 2 weeks trips away. So we went to the States for 2 weeks. I went to the West Coast and to the East Coast. Went to the West Coast just to catch up with my friend. He's like, Sam, what do you want to do while we're here? I'm like, I just want to hang out with you, man. I just want to do cool stuff with you. Like we can ride horses, we can shoot guns, whatever you do, whatever floats your boat. And we did that. Holy smokes, man! The Americans love their guns. So I did that, and then but what was really nice is like he was my best mate growing up. When his family heard we were coming, his mom and dad came, his brother and sister came, and then we caught up. And actually, and you'll like this story as well. Like his younger brother. So his name's Angus, but his younger brother, Nick, is most probably, maybe he's about 4 or 5 years younger than us. So like, when you're like 16, a 12-year-old's a pain in the bum. It's not cool to hang out. Well, Nick's a really, really smart guy and done very well for himself. Anyway, so we ended up staying in one of his penthouses. And I'm like, Nick, I'm so sorry we were so horrible to you. He's kicking goals like we're out on his boat, and it was just amazing. But so good to catch up, right? And then literally stayed with them for a week, and then flew over to the East Coast and caught up with another mate there. And that was such a good holiday. Then I came back for 2 weeks, caught up on all my work, and then we had a reunion. So we're all turning 50 this year, and my mate Peter picked up the phone and said, "Hey Sam, 50th, we all turned 50 this year. My birthday's on this date. We're going up to Sodwana Bay, which is a place in South Africa, up on the north coast. Amazing diving." He says, "I've booked accommodation. We're getting the whole gang together." And so flew in, caught up with my mates who I haven't, some of them, we have not all been together for 30 years. Like I've seen a couple every now and again, but all of us together. Within 30 seconds of us arriving at this thing, like the amount of shit we hung on each other, it was like we were back at school. It was so good. And like put a value on that, right? And so we did that for 2 weeks. And like, so moving forward, we've got a couple of trips planned like that where you just go away for 2 weeks, spend quality time with quality people, doing fun stuff.
That's beautiful.
Creating memories. So
that's awesome. Well, obviously, massive thank you for coming on today. We all learnt a lot, and we could sit here for another 6 hours. So
there's so many gems that you just dropped.
We'll have to get you back on. But again, thank you. Where do we find you? What's the best way?
Most probably website's the easiest. samharrop.com.au. So that's HARROP. Quick story? Time for a quick story?
Go. Throw it in.
At school, there was a bunch of guys. Like, and I had a couple of close friends, and there was some other guys. And like, they were always like, "Hey, Arab." What the hell, man? And I just ignored them. I couldn't be bothered. As far as I'm concerned, bunch of wankers, whatever, right? And then a couple of years later, so about 10 years ago, I'm at the airport in Australia, in Sydney, and I recognised the one guy. And I went over and just had a chat to him. "Hey, how you doing?" And he goes, "Hey, you're actually quite a good guy." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Oh, at school, you were so stuck up." I said, "Well, you guys are like wankers. You always used to call me Arab." He goes, "Isn't that your last name?" No, it's Harrop. So they were calling me out, because in South Africa you generally call people by their last name. So anyway, so samharrop.com.au.
Love that.
Amazing. Right.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been an awesome fun.
Lovely.
Is there anything you wanted to plug? before?
Oh, look, if anything I've said has resonated,
Yeah.
particularly like the 7 levels of business,
that's fantastic,
have a
yeah.
look. You can follow me on my socials as well, Sam Harrop.
And that survey's on the website?
That survey will be up on the website, and in the next couple of days, we're just putting the finishing touches to it, so it'll be up and live and running.
Very
That's
cool.
perfect.
Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks for
Thanks
coming
heaps,
on,
mate.
Sam.
Well, thanks
Cheers,
for having
man.
me, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh,
So many gems.